Hey, welcome to Nerd News Today. This is Matthew, and this episode is one that I've been waiting for decades, and that's not really an exaggeration here. Today we are doing our review of Ghostbusters Afterlife. And this is going to be a spoiler-free review of Ghostbusters Afterlife. There's going to be a version of this video that will have all the spoilers in it once the movie is released, so if you want to see that, come back for that in a few days from now. But for those of you who don't want to be spoiled, you want to be surprised, and you just want to know if the movie is good, if it's worth your time, this is that video for you here. And in fact, I am so protective, of you right now because normally, I put out lots of different toys when I'm doing these reviews, and I didn't use any of the toys from the new movie because those even have a lot of spoilers. So I didn't want to even do that to keep this really, really clean, really safe for you guys out there. So yeah, let's go ahead and just jump right on in here. If you're new to this channel, by the way, you guys might not know, we do a lot of Ghostbusters stuff, and I've been following Ghostbusters for quite some time here. In fact, we had a video series that was kind of chronicling the progress of Ghostbusters Afterlife before it even had a name, which we did for a few months till we stopped when basically production kind of finished and there wasn't really anything to report anymore. But yeah, here we are finally. It has been a long, long road, and when I say that, I mean, I'm talking like 1997 here, back when the very first rumors for Ghostbusters 3 began flying around the internet, which was back then, the movie was all about the Ghostbusters going to hell. It was an interesting story, but yeah, it never got off the ground, and in those early days of the internet too, the rumors were like so crazy and bizarre. Like they were saying Chris Farley was going to be in it, Chris Rock was going to be in it, Will Smith was going to be in it, so all this crazy stuff that didn't happen. And then in 2016, we got the Paul Feig version, which we will certainly draw some comparisons to along with this video, really both the spoiler-free and the spoiler-filled versions of these reviews. But yeah, there's really no comparison. But before I get super deep into this review here, you might be wondering, how did I already see Ghostbusters Afterlife? Well, I was one of those really, really lucky people who went to New York Comic Con this year, went to the Ghostbusters Afterlife panel, and was surprised with the entire movie. And I gotta tell you, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about that day. Because, really, that was Friday of New York Comic Con. It was my second day there, and I was really overwhelmed, really busy, because I was doing work for another client. And yeah, I wasn't even sure if I was going to make it to the Ghostbusters panel because I was just feeling so kind of overwhelmed and stressed. And then I got there and the line was like enormous, really, really huge line, but it was in a brand new building at the Javits, and they assured us that all of us would get in. And yeah, we did. And the panel was really cool because we got to see all of the actors from the film. They all answered a few questions. Really nothing too crazy or spoiler-filled either, but it was just nice seeing them, seeing their personalities, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go into this review here. But yeah, it was just really cool. And then about 30 minutes into that panel, Jason Reitman was like, all right, well, we're going to show you guys some clips now, but we've decided that you've waited long enough, so sit back and enjoy. And that was it. Lights went dim. Security came up out of nowhere. Like tons of security just basically swarmed that area and patrolled the entire night to make sure nobody was taking film or photos or anything. And yeah, I got to see Ghostbusters Afterlife, and wow, you guys. So this is going to be, again, the spoiler-free version. If you want to see the spoiler-filled version, go ahead and wait a few more days. That's going to be here online as well once the movie is officially released in the US. So here we go now, spoiler-free review time. And where to even begin in this film? It's like my big concern here is what do I say versus what do I not say? And so what I am going to do right now is tell you guys a very short plot synopsis that I don't think is anything you haven't heard yet. But I'm going to basically put a little red bar on screen right now to let you know when this part of the video is done, in case you don't want to hear anything about the plot. And again, I'm going to keep this very, very simple, basically first act, nothing beyond that. And this is, as far as I know, the stuff that's really only kind of like out there on IMDb or places like that where they're kind of just getting ready to show the movie, but they haven't shown it yet. I know that I'm rambling a lot right now about this, but again, I just really want to make sure I don't say anything that you don't want to hear. So warning is up. Here is Ghostbusters Afterlife. Elevator pitch, let's just call it. And really, the story is about some family that moves to some random part of the Midwest, essentially, and they discover their identity, who they are, and how they are connected to the original Ghostbusters. And how that connection comes out is because, well, there are some strange things happening in their new neighborhood. So different people come together, do some stuff, and, I don't really want to say much more beyond that, really. So that's your kind of spoiler-free version of it. If you want maybe a more detailed version, yeah, check out some other websites, but I'm going to keep it really, really light in this case. So I think the question that you probably want to know right now is Ghostbusters Afterlife good? Yes. Yes, it is very good. This is the movie that I've been waiting for decades. This is a movie that you have been waiting for decades. This is a true sequel to Ghostbusters. This is not Ghostbusters 2016. In fact, the film doesn't even recognize that. That's not really a spoiler, I don't think, either. The film does not recognize or mention Ghostbusters 2016 because it kind of is an alternate universe. We could discuss that in a different video. But this is a true sequel in the truest sense of the word. It continues the original continuity. I guess we can call it canon if you're really going to be a stickler for canon, but this does continue that original storyline, and yes, it takes place years later, and that's how we kind of get into things. Let's talk about some of the performers now in this film too, and everybody carries their weight. Everybody's got something to do, and everybody feels like they have some weight to what their stories are, and they really do kind of connect together very nicely. So you guys know already that Finn Wolfhard, Logan Kim, Celeste Connor, McKenna Grace, they are basically the kids in this film here, and you've got Carrie Coon and Paul Rudd doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the adult parts. And it's really cool because everybody kind of has their own different stories, and then they come along and they do end up converging onto each other. McKenna Grace is amazing. You're going to really love her, I think. Finn Wolfhard, we all know he's amazing. Same thing with Carrie Coon. Paul Rudd is, of course, hilarious in everything he does, and also a very good dramatic actor as well. Celeste Connor is a relative newcomer as well, and she does a really great job. I think the real standout is Logan Kim. I think you're going to really love him. You know, I was a little bit concerned having seen some of the toys and things like that. I was like, you know, who is this kid? This kid looks like he's really young, and he is very, very young. In fact, this is actually his first big thing he's ever done, and really the first thing, honestly, ever, because before this, he had done like a commercial, and that was it. And then he got cast in Ghostbusters Afterlife. But the dude is a pro. He's really a standout, in fact. You're going to really, really enjoy him, too. So again, I can't really talk too much about spoilers. I don't want to really do anything that's going to potentially ruin things for you guys if you're really trying to keep yourself down there with your eyes closed until opening night. But the story does have a lot of complexities to it, a lot of interesting things that happen in it, which I think is going to be some really good surprises you're going to enjoy. A lot of stuff you're not going to see coming that's going to happen, how things got to the way they are. Really cool explanations for that. And just like the original movie too, Ghostbusters Afterlife is kind of a hybrid of a bunch of different types of movies. The original Ghostbusters was basically a comedy. It was kind of a horror movie. It was also a little bit of an action movie, but very little on the action, so really not at all. Ghostbusters Afterlife is, again, a comedy, but it's also a Jason Reitman film, which tends to mean that it's going to be a family drama kind of film, and it definitely is. There's a lot of elements that you'll see. I think that's kind of like Jason Reitman's signature thing, really, is just how he deals with family issues, and that's a very big part of this film, and it makes sense for somebody like the Ghostbusters, for those characters, to kind of have a film that is about family. So it's a comedy, it's a family drama, it's also got some really good spooky horror elements in it too. You know, there are some jump scares, but there's also just some really good kind of ambience, which was really lacking in the 2016 film, which we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go on here. But Ghostbusters Afterlife, again, just like its predecessor, is a hybrid film with a bunch of different genres in it, and they all work together great. Like, I guess now we're going to get into the 2016 thing, actually. Yeah, like, you know, having just rewatched the 2016 film a bunch of times in October because it was on TV a lot on, like, FXM and I guess the other FX channels, I got to rewatch it a few times, and I hadn't really seen it much since, like, it first debuted in theaters. I saw it probably a few weeks after it came out because I wasn't too thrilled by it. And then I saw it maybe part of it on TV like 2 years ago or whatever it was. And again, like I just said, it was on TV a bunch, so I've rewatched it now like 5 times. And I did it purely for research for this video, in fact, because I wanted to make sure I was able to talk about that and compare it to it. And of course, I did also watch the original again a few times, but that's because I always watch it anyway. So to me, like, the 2016 film kind of flopped around a bit because they didn't really know what their focus was. It was a comedy, but it really kind of lacked any heart and any real elements that made you care about the characters and made them feel like an actual unit. You know, in 2016, they just kind of came together and whatever. In the new one, they have reasons to come together, and they're very much all separate people, and they find their way onto the same path together, which is really kind of cool. 2016 also really focused way too much on stunts and on action, and the original Ghostbusters was really not about that. I mean, if you really look at the first Ghostbusters film, there's very minimal ghostbusting action. Even the ghostbusting montage that you get, which is like one of the most iconic sequences in the film, they don't show any ghostbusting, really. The only times you see the Ghostbusters in the 1984 film use their packs would be when they catch Slimer, and then basically the climax of the film. That's about it. In the 2016 one, they went willy-nilly with all the action, and yeah, it does not age well, to be honest. I didn't like it even back then. I remember watching it back then at the theater and going, this is too much. And yeah, that was a big problem. They basically kind of like did the exact opposite of what the original did. Ghostbusters 2 also kind of added a little bit more action elements to it, but that's because they were kind of changing their audience too. They knew they had more kids watching. In the new film, again, ghostbusting does happen, I'd say more than the 1984 version, but it feels right when it happens and it's not overdone. And what they do is very grounded, which, you know, it's weird to even say it grounded in a movie like Ghostbusters, but it is very grounded, and it's very well executed. It feels like it's in the right place, and it feels dramatic, and that the ghostbusting scenes have actual meaning behind them. And I don't think that's a spoiler to say there is some kind of ghostbusting that's going to happen, because I know the trailers have shown some things here, and obviously it's called Ghostbusters, so at some point someone's going to get a pack and someone's going to bust a ghost. Now, you might be watching this review to find out how scary or how intense is this film in case you have kids and you want to bring them to see this movie. And I can tell you that I think it's fairly kid-friendly. There's definitely some adult elements, and there are some kind of big scares. There's some loud noises. There are jump scares, of course, because it is, you know, 2021 now, and jump scares are kind of the norm in horror films. But I think a kid can handle it just fine. There's some dark stuff. There is some intense moments, but I don't think it's anything that's going to be too scary. There are some elements of gore and violence, though, which I was surprised to see in a Ghostbusters film, and that would probably be the thing I'd be most worried about having kids see. And without explaining too much about the why and when that they happen, I'll basically just say that they all kind of happen towards the start of the third act. So, they happen really quick also, so maybe it's going to be too quick you won't even really notice it. One of them is definitely kind of gory. The other one is just kind of like disturbing, but not really violent, bloody kind of thing. Hard to really explain it without giving it away. It's a scene that is a little cutesy at first, and it kind of takes a dark turn. So when you see that scene, you will know what happens. You'll catch on pretty quickly. Does the new Ghostbusters film have the heart of the original Ghostbusters film? Absolutely, if not even more so. This truly is a love letter from Jason Reitman to his father, Ivan Reitman, the director of the original film. And I know these two guys work together. I mean, I got to go to Ghostbusters Fan Fest when they were first talking about the film and just talk about what it was like to make it with each other, essentially. And, it really feels like it's just the perfect family movie for Ghostbusters. And I would say also that the film does tie up some loose ends that take place in our reality as well as the reality of the Ghostbusters. And very, very important that they address it. And the way that they address it, too, it's just really kind of just perfect, spot on. So Ghostbusters Afterlife, I know it's cliche to say this, but this is absolutely true. I laughed, I cried, I got scared. It was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it again on opening night because, I'm not the kind of guy that sees movies again and again in theaters, but I really feel like I need to see it again. And it's just that awesome that I do want to have that experience one more time, even though, it really was just like a total emotional experience in every possible way. It was a true roller coaster, and I want to ride it again. If you're a hardcore Ghostbuster fan like me, if you're a true ghost head, you're going to love this film. Really, you might have one or two complaints, which I'll talk about in the spoiler-filled review, but I think otherwise, I can't see anybody really having too many problems with anything in the film. If you're new to the world of Ghostbusters or trying to introduce somebody new to it, or if you just want to go to the film and just have a fun time and not be like a crazy hardcore nerd like I am, your expectations will not just be met, they will be exceeded. You're going to have a really, really enjoyable experience watching this film. It's going to make you want to watch the original Ghostbusters again as well. I think it's going to rekindle a lot of love for the film, and also really last thing here, not spoilery again, but I will say there's a lot of people out there who still haven't learned you don't walk out on the credits anymore. It always bugs me when I go to like Marvel films or DC films and people are leaving, and I'm like, why? Why are you leaving? So I'm going to tell you now without telling you what happens. There are 2 post-credit scenes in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Technically, one of them is actually a mid-credit scene, so that one happens during the credits, and then there's another scene that happens at the very end of the film, so do not leave. It is very important that you watch that scene. As for the future of the franchise, I know Dan Aykroyd has had some ideas. Truth be told, I kind of hope they just don't touch any of his ideas, because I don't think they're that good. Ghostbusters High School is a terrible idea, but I would not mind, and I would actually love to see and hope that they do continue Ghostbusters Afterlife in a new direction and keep it going with the new characters, because there's a lot of stuff that they didn't even do in this first film. And really, to me, this feels like the beginning of a whole new chapter of Ghostbusters, and I want to see it fully explored. I don't want to bring up Ghostbusters 2016 again in this review here, but I think it's important because, to me, I actually did want a sequel. As much as I didn't really like the first one that much, or really the only one, I did want to see them continue the story and see where it went, because I felt like, they had a rough patch. Once they got through this origin story, they could really take off. And I feel the same way about Afterlife. To me, this is an origin story. It's basically the start of a brand new chapter. This is basically the closing of Ghostbusters 84 and the opening of Ghostbusters 2021. So I want them to continue this thing. I want it to go on, have a few movies, and I think there is clearly a lot of potential for that to happen. So final thoughts, Ghostbusters 2021, Ghostbusters 3, Ghostbusters Afterlife, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is in your head that feeds your fandom, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for. You are going to love this. You might have a few nitpicks here and there. I know I had a few, but they are really minor. And I think after you see this film too, you're going to see exactly what I'm saying about the potential for the future. And that's what also kind of really makes you not worry too much about those maybe short-sighted things that happen in the film. Everything you want in a Ghostbusters movie is here, and everything that you didn't know you wanted in a Ghostbusters movie is also here. There is just so much elements about it that I wish I could tell you about, but really, I want you to be surprised. I want you to enjoy it, and then I want you to come back here, maybe watch the spoiler version of this review as well, and let me know your thoughts on the film. But either way, I had a great time watching this, and if I was to give this a final rating here on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give this probably an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. And I would consider Ghostbusters 1984 to be a perfect 10 of a film, because really, from top to bottom, everything about it is perfect. I promise you that you will not be disappointed, and even just thinking about it right now, I'm getting the goosebumps again, and I just cannot wait to see it, and I want to see it right now. So that is our review of Ghostbusters Afterlife. Let me know your thoughts on the film here. If you do see the film and want to talk about it, don't leave comments in this video. Please go to the spoiler-filled version of my review, and let's discuss things in there. I don't want you to spoil anything for anybody else that hasn't seen the film yet. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Bustin' makes me feel good, and I'm pretty sure if you watch this video, it's going to make you feel good too. Enjoy Ghostbusters Afterlife.